morning, everyone. Happy Thursday, and I hope you all enjoyed your day off yesterday and got to enjoy some of the wonderful weather. Today, to start our day, we're going to be going over our sight words. We're going to be introduced and working with 6 new sight words, with one of them should be familiar to you since it's on our sight word wall at school. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go over our 6 sight words we're going to be working with today. I'm going to model 2 problems on the whiteboard to help us complete our worksheet for today. And then we will also complete 2 problems on our worksheet together before you complete the rest of them on your own. So let's get started. We're going to go over each of the 6 sight words. As I say each sight word, you can repeat back after me or say them with me if you know them. Under, walk, want, yellow, for, and saw. 4 should be familiar to you since we've worked with it previously in school and it's one of our sight words on our word wall. Next, I'm going to model 2 examples that you should both be familiar with since this is the way we have been completing our sight word worksheet. The first example over here is I'm going to do it in 3 parts. Read each sight word that's below. Trace the sight word below by saying each letter as I trace it, and then write the sight word on my own by saying each letter as I write it. So I'm going to get started with that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read my sight word below. Remember, if you don't know that sight word off the top of your head, you're going to sound out the sight word by saying each letter sound and then putting all of those sounds together so we can figure out what the sight word is. So the sight word below is under. Under. Now I'm going to trace the word under by saying each letter as I trace it. So under is U, N, D, E, R. Under. Now I'm going to write the sight word under on my own by saying each letter as I write it. So under, U, N, D, E, R. Under. That's the first part, and that's going to be the first part of our worksheet. The next part is I'm going to fill in my sentence with one of the sight words. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read my sentence as is with the blank in it so I can become familiar with the sentence. Then, using my sight words up top, which is in a word bank, I'm going to plug in a sight word and I'm going to see when I plug in that sight word if the sentence makes sense and sounds correctly. If it does, then that means that is the sight word I'm going to write on the blank. If my sentence does not make sense and my sentence does not sound correctly, I'm going to move over or on to the next sight word until I figure out which sight word best completes the sentence. So I'm going to read my sentence as is. We saw one blank bird. Now I'm going to try under. We saw one under bird. Doesn't make sense and doesn't sound correctly. So under is not the sight word I'm going to be using. So I'm going to move on to the next sight word in my word bank, which is walk. I'm going to try to use walk in my blank. We saw one walk bird. Still doesn't make sense and still doesn't sound correctly. So walk is not the sight word I'm going to be using in the blank. So I'm going to move over to the next one, want. We saw one want bird. Still doesn't make sense and still doesn't sound correctly. So want is not the sight word I'm going to put in the blank. Now I'm going to move over to yellow. We saw one yellow bird. Makes sense and sounds correctly. So yellow is the sight word I'm going to write on my blank. Yellow. Y-E-L-L-O-W. And then I'm going to cross it off here in my word bank because that means that I've used that sight word and I'm not going to be using that sight word again. Now let's complete 2 problems together. Materials that you are going to need for this activity is you're going to get out the sight word worksheet with the title, Look, He Can Walk. On one side, it will have our 3 parts, read, trace, write. On the back, it will have our fill-in sentences with our word bank up top. You're also going to need a pencil. This sight word worksheet is going to be found in your second packet. So the packet that we have been currently working with, not the one that we just received. Again, the title of this worksheet is going to be Look, He Can Walk. And then you're also going to need a pencil. I'm going to hang my worksheet up here so we can complete the first part together. If you need a little bit of extra time finding these materials, remember this worksheet is going to be found in the second packet, the packet that we have been working with, not in the new one that we just received, and you're also going to need a pencil. When you have both of your materials in front of you, your worksheet and your pencil, you can make sure that you are on the side of the worksheet that says, Look, He Can Walk, where we have our 3 columns, read, trace, write, so we can complete one of the examples on our own. The first step is we're going to do, just like we do for everything, in the name section, we're going to write our first and last name. So I want you to take your pencil, and I'm going to write my first and last name, and you can do the same. Now we're going to look at our 3 columns. Read, so we're going to read the sight word below. Trace the sight word below by saying each letter as we trace it. And then write the sight word on our own by saying each letter as we write it. So our first sight word is exactly the one that we did here. We're going to read it, which is under. Remember, when a sight word is unfamiliar to you, you're going to sound out each of the letters and then combine all of them together to see what sight word it is. So we'll read our sight word together. The sight word is under. Now we're going to trace the sight word under with our pencil as we trace each letter and say each letter as we trace it. So under, trace with me and say U, N, D, E, R. Under. Now we're going to write the sight word under on our own by saying each letter as we write it. Let's do it together. Under. U, N, D, E, R. Under. And you would repeat this process for the next 5 sight words. But now we're going to complete one of the examples on the back together. So let's flip our paper over and let's read the directions together. It's exactly what I did below here when I modeled this example. The directions say, choose the word to fit in the space in each sentence. Write it in the space. So what we're going to do is we're going to do sentence number 1 together. The first thing is we're going to read the sentence as is and then choose one of the sight words from above to fill in the blank. Then we have to figure out, is the sight word that we use to fill in the blank, does the sentence make sense, and does the sentence sound correctly? If it does, then that is the sight word that we will be using. If it doesn't, we're going to move on to the next sight word until we find the sight word that best completes the sentence. So let's read sentence number 1 together as is. The book is blank the hat. Let's try putting the sight word yellow in the blank. The book is yellow the hat. Doesn't make sense and doesn't sound correctly. Let's move to the sight word for. The book is for the hat. Doesn't really make sense and doesn't sound correctly. So let's move on to the sight word saw. The book is saw the hat. Doesn't make sense and doesn't sound correctly. So saw definitely is not the sight word. Let's move to the sight word under and plug it in the blank. The book is under the hat. Makes sense and sounds correctly. So under is going to be the sight word that we write on the blank. So let's write the sight word under on the blank by copying it from our word bank. The book is under, so under is U, and write it with me. You're going to write under on the line with me. So U, N, D, E, under. The book is under the hat. So now I'm going to cross off the sight word under from my word bank, which shows me that that sight word has been used and it's to not be used again. You would repeat the same process that we just did for the next 5 sentences. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go over and re-explain the worksheet again, and then I'm going to go over the 6 sight words up top, and then it's going to be your job to complete the rest of the worksheet on your own. So remember, on the front of our worksheet, with the title, Look He Can Walk, you have your 3 columns. The first column is you're going to read the sight word. The second column is you're going to trace the sight word by saying each letter as you trace it. And then the third column is you're going to write the sight word on your own by saying each letter as you trace it. Remember, if you don't know the sight word off the top of your head, you're practicing sounding out the sight word. On the back of the worksheet, you are choosing the word to fit in the blank that best completes the sentence. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to read the sentence as is. Then you're going to go back to your word bank and plug in a sight word in that blank. Then you're going to read the sentence and determine with that sight word if the sentence makes sense and if the sentence sounds correctly. If the sentence does make sense and sounds correctly, then that sight word is going to be written on the line. If the sentence does not make sense and does not sound correctly, you're going to move over to the next sight word in your word bank until you find the sight word that best completes the sentence and write it on the line. When you do find the sight word that best completes the sentence and you write it on the line, you're going to cross it off on your word bank, indicating that that sight word has been used and it's to not be used again. Now let's go over our 6 sight words together before I send you off to complete the worksheet on your own. You can read the sight words with me or repeat back after me. So we have under, walk, want, yellow, for, and saw. Remember, when you are finished with both sides of your worksheet, please have your parent or an adult or an older sibling take a picture and send me your work so I can view it. After you're done with our sight words, we're going to then move on into reading. So I will see you all really soon back for reading.